course, on the first day of operation, we always expect some difficulty, but from our point of view, the operation today was a success. The equipment worked well, the computer programs worked well, but certainly there are certain problem areas that will be taken care of with changes in the control program.
How can you say a success when buses running 4 to 6 minutes behind and cars backed up to Greenville from the Mockingbird exit?
Well, you're picking out 1 out of 20 ramps that did experience some problems. We experienced some problems up the Northwest Highway. We expect these to be resolved, we hope, by tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock. We do this by changing some of the control rates that we assign to these ramps. The success was from the point of view that the motorists accepted the system. They didn't violate the signals. They merged into the freeway rather well, and our freeway speeds from Mockingbird Lane to downtown were in the order of 45 miles an hour practically throughout the peak hour. So this is our point of view. I don't believe there were any accidents that we know of, and people said it couldn't be done, but I think we did a rather good job the first day.
By this time last year, 112 U.S. Air Force personnel had died in automobile accidents around the world. This time, this year, the figure is up to 164, a substantial increase. At Carswell Air Force Base, they're trying to do something about it in the Buckle Up for Bucks program. The idea is this: if you're stopped at the Carswell main gate and you have your seatbelt fastened, you get a certificate for $5 worth of goods and merchandise. If you don't have it fastened, you get an admonition. Sergeant John Ring of Ground Safety is conducting the examinations of the drivers.
I'm Sergeant Ring from Ground Safety, and we're conducting a check for our Buckle Up for Bucks program. If you have your seatbelt buckled, you'll be awarded $5. No seatbelt? So you would have had $5, and you've been a lot safer outside the main gate.
Are you going to buckle your seatbelt next time?
Right, I will.
Are you sorry you lost this $5?
Damn sorry. Morning, sir. I'm Sergeant Ring from Ground Safety, and we're conducting our seatbelt check for Buckle Up for Bucks, and I do see that you have your seatbelt buckled, so you're going to be the proud recipient of a $5 certificate.
The drivers who are stopped who have their seatbelts fastened are happy. They're $5 richer, and they probably keep belts fastened anyway. The ones who are stopped and don't have their belts fastened are justifiably sorry, but maybe they've learned a valuable lesson. Not only can having their seatbelts fastened save them $5 in gifts and merchandise, it may also save their lives.
When you're forced with a burden of proof, a test becomes one of the only types of measures that can possibly do it. It is very, very difficult to look at a person's history or at his education or at his arrests or convictions or other types of criteria which we know are predictive, but to sit down and prove that these are predictive. Tests have been developed for the singular purpose of being predictive and have been proven over a long period of years to be predictive. So that, yes, they are, as long as you hire some relative predicted failures.
This bill, then, will help us with a problem that has developed only lately, and that is an actual decline in the number of students that are attending the private institutions. I said 70,000 are enrolled. The freshman class 2 years ago in the private institution showed the first decline in history. We're trying to reverse that decline.
Dr. Matty, this is not the entire answer. This actually comes out to only about 1/3 of the cost of going to school for a full year.
That's true. It's not the entire answer for the student, of course. But as the prices charged at the private institutions have had to increase, we have priced ourselves out of an increasing market every year. And this will help bring back some. For whom a difference, say, of the $600 would be the difference in their going to a private institution as compared with the state.
What happened on this last run, Don?
Well, it's a new car here, and it just, I believe we got a plugged fuel line or something. It's just not taking the fuel. It's coming off the start line and just going lean, so we got to work this problem out here.
But you have plenty of time to repair it, don't you?
Yeah, that's why we're out here today. Today is just practicing with this and testing this new car here, and tomorrow's the real thing. We got to get our bugs worked out today.
What kind of trials have you put this one through?
I've just had it in test stages so far out in Orange County, which out in California. We've run 667, 224 miles an hour with it, and it was running good at the time, and now we just encountered some problems there.
You to the hospital.
Live with.
We hope that the state is recognizing the contribution that the private institutions, including TCU, have been making for many years in the state of Texas. There are 70,000 students enrolled in private institutions in the state of Texas. That's about twice the number enrolled at the Austin campus of UT. If the state had to replace all of that, the state would have a big job on its hands. The private institutions have been doing a tremendous service to the state of Texas for many years. That, I think, is the first thing to be recognized in this bill.
I want to present, among other things, a glorious image of America and the best side of America. As you know, I'm going to speak at the World Conference on Prophecy held in Jerusalem. It'll start next Tuesday. And because of that journey, I thought I'd just take all of this group with me, and while we were over there, we'd go over Rome and tour Israel and go to the 7 churches of Asia and the Isle of Patmos and Athens and a lot of other places like that.
Following basically the travels of Paul the Apostle?
Yes, yes.
Well, all I can tell you is that we have tried to handle this case and provide as much security for all of the people involved in this as possible. And I'm not familiar with the details of what actually happened in that respect. The only thing I can tell you is that we've tried to work with everyone in this case as closely as possible to offer all the security, all of the assistance that we'd be required to offer and would be obligated to offer. And I'm not sure in this particular case if I would be at liberty to explain at this time all of the problems involved here, but the only thing I can tell you is that we've tried as best we can to meet our obligations and responsibilities in the best way possible.
Was a deal made with Gonzalez to let him out or to release his bond, or lower his bond, rather?
I don't think I'd be at liberty to comment on that.
The drug problem has received so much publicity that people not affected may be complacent about drug problems in general. But more and more people are being affected because one thing for sure, the drug problem is growing. In Tarrant County, the number of deaths due to drug abuse has risen substantially in the first 5 months of this year. Tarrant County Drug Treatment Center shows a sharp rise in heroin addiction, and places like Our House, a crisis center with counseling for people who find themselves in trouble with drugs, is having increased traffic. I talked about the problem with Mike Rizhinoff of the Our House staff and John Stewart of the Fort Worth Urban Ministry.
Yeah, there's been a steady flow of people in, and I think probably there has been an increase, and it's mainly been younger people coming in. As I said, our median age is 17 years old, and that's probably where it's been, staying.
Where do you see the increase coming, you believe? With all the publicity on drugs now, why are there more people using drugs?
Well, that might be one reason, because of all the publicity. Another reason could be drug information, I think, in the city of Fort Worth. Kids just aren't believing it.
Dr. Felix Gwoch, the Tarrant County Medical Examiner, reveals the number of deaths attributed to drug abuse this year already equals the total of all of 1970.
According to the statistics and figures that we have, for instance, in 1968 we had only 5 cases, and 69 4 cases. 1970 we have a total 7 cases, while this year in the first 5 months is already number 7. We have 7 of those deaths due to acute narcotism.
The consensus of those we have talked to believe the drug problem could be lessened if it were dealt with as a medical problem instead of a question of legality. It may eventually come to that, but before it can, the drug problem is affecting more and more people. More are dying as a result, and this summer could be the crisis period. Jim Green, Channel 8 News on the Move, Fort Worth.
Suicide is a crime in 7 states in this country, and it should be wiped off the books, because that doesn't help mental health to make it a crime.
Do you find there's really a cry for help with potential suicide?
Yes, indeed. In at least 8 out of 10 cases, there have been definite cries for help, clear-cut clues, which are often missed, unfortunately.
Is there a tendency to define an age bracket where suicides are more prevalent?
There seems to be a trend with an increase among the younger age groups between 15 and 24, even up to 44 years of age, and some decline in the older age groups above 65.
Why is that, would you say?
I think that probably there are 2 reasons for that. One is that the younger age groups are meeting with more frustrations than they have in the past, and probably some of the minority group problems are now coming to the fore, which did not exist in the past, and probably we're counting a little bit better.
Is there a time of year when suicides are more prevalent?
Yes, suicide seems to be more prevalent in the springtime, April and May, in this country at least.
Well, they don't seem to be very effective, and I am inclined to agree with George Schultz, who says that there's really not much point in this job-owning business. It doesn't stop the railway employees from going out on strike if they feel it's important that they go out. It doesn't stop people from closing down the bridges in New York City, and it didn't stop the postal employees a year or so ago from shutting down our postal system. They recognize the importance of these things, but as in every other area, I think self-interest is the most important factor.
It doesn't matter whether we take the administration's bill or the Mills bill, both of them are bad because it's going to mean adding 12 million people to relief. It's going to mean that we're going to have a 15% Social Security total tax. 15% of payroll is going in. It's going to mean that the old people are thrown into this general thing, and instead of taking a responsibility for Social Security, we're going to mix them all in with welfare. It's going to mean we're going to borrow money in order to pay it instead of pay as you go. This guaranteed income is the worst step this country has ever taken towards socialism.
I've been in drag racing for 11 years. I've been in super stock since 1967.
You've won quite a few titles, haven't you?
Yes, I've been very fortunate.
Would you give us a rundown on some of your outstanding achievements?
Well, I've never missed qualifying for a world final event. I was the only girl in 1968 that qualified for this. I've held 4 national championships, and I'm now leading the points in the WCS.
Who will be your chief competitors here in contention for the crown?
There'll be Ken McClellan, Gary Ostrich, Ron Mancini, which has held 2 national championships this last year. There's quite a few.
Any other girls racing here?
I'm sure that Shirley Shahan will be here also.
How did you get into this business or this hobby?
Well, when I started out, my husband was doing the driving, and I suggested he make a few changes in his driving style, and he said if I was so smart to try and do it myself. And I did try, and I started bettering his times, and he kind of gradually faded off into the background.
He's a mechanic, correct?
Yes, he is.
Does he keep your car in top shape?
Yes, he does. It's one of the top running cars in the country.
Do you ever offer any suggestions as to how to fix it?
Sometimes I think when I should be quiet, I'm not.
What about the 2 children at home?
They enjoy drag racing very much. They would like to come with us, and I think now as they're getting older that they'll be able to, but I don't believe in leaving them unattended at these meets, and a lot of times that's what happens when they're younger.
Dr. Parkinson, what is Parkinson's law?
Parkinson's law is a law of nature, and it's worded as follows. Work expands to fill the time available for its completion, but it has a corollary to it. It follows from it that staff accumulates in an organization, especially an administrative staff, by a law of its own increase, irrespective of the work, if any, to be done.
What brings about this? What force is it that causes the staff to increase even though the work does not increase?
Well, one explanation, and it's one that we're very concerned with at this conference of the personnel managers, is that work fluctuates in most businesses. The tendency of management is to provide for the busy period, and that means that some people are going to be underemployed during the slack period. The underemployed people don't like to be underemployed, not below a certain point, so that they all think up things to do. Sometimes management thinks of things for them. Quite often they think of things for themselves. They keep themselves busy. They circulate questionnaires. They write memoranda to each other. And then when the next busy period comes round, they're not even available.
What teenagers in Grapevine do on a Saturday night? Well, it's called dragging the mane. In the vernacular of the teenagers, they ride up and down Main Street here from one end to the other, seeing and being seen. But they say that it really doesn't turn them on. So a group of interested Grapevine citizens, the average age 16, leased an old tumble-down building on Main Street, borrowed $2,500 to fix it up, contracted for a first-rate movie, and the Flicks was born. The general manager of the theater is Mark Haskell. He's 18. I asked him about some of the problems of getting the Flicks into shape.
Well, the building was built like so many years ago that when we first started building, the walls are uneven when we put up paneling, and the steps were falling in, and there were big holes in the walls, and all the seats were ripped, and it was just in such a big mess that it took a long time to get it in the shape where we could even start cleaning it up and fixing it up again.
Are you ready to open?
Yes, sir. There's still a few minor repairs, but we're ready to open.
You borrowed $2,500 to do this. How's that holding out?
Well, we still have a couple hundred left, but it's going pretty fast.
Well, tonight is opening night. The movie is Paint Your Wagon. There won't be any searchlights, no wet concrete in front to put your handprints or footprints in, but there'll be plenty of stars. You won't have to look hard to find them. They're in the eyes of Debbie, Susie, Jane, Mark, Dana, Jackie, Karen. Beginning tonight, Main Street in Grapevine's going to get a rest. Jerry Park, Channel 8 News on the Move, Grapevine.